4 French drivers at the French Grand Prix trying to win this on the final lap. The 3 wide again, Guillaume down the inside. Guillaume moves across, they're both in front of Milan and Pouget.
But before you know it, we find ourselves here in the very final race of the competition.
And then they see truck racing and they think, this is crazy, you know, these are 5-ton machines, 1,200 horsepower brake.
Oh, look at that switchback. Oh, he's been bumped and the brakes is going off.
I love it. 10.5 minutes gone. Senna Lanson tries to go for the race lead.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head to head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Chaz Draycott Media and welcome to the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Winter Tour here from Bathurst. It's going to be a fantastic night of racing here at Mount Panorama as we head for round 5 of the championship, which is now a mix of endurance rounds and sprint races for this season. We hope you're all having a wonderful evening so far, and you'll be joined by myself, Chaz Draycott, and Ed May, who's back in the commentary box with me for this week. Ed, we had a great time at Okayama last time out, but I think we're in for a real treat here from Bathurst, don't you?
Yes, thank you very much, Chaz. And it's going to be certainly an intriguing round of the SRM Winter Tour. It's one that's obviously going to, well, get the drivers a bit worried, I think, coming into this round. A circuit where you're going to be racing very close to one another up through the mountain. It's certainly one where things can go awry, to say the least. But, of course, it's something that the drivers haven't driven before. I'm certain they're going to be really looking forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a completely new circuit to these guys, as a lot of them are in this championship. Actually, well, this mini off-season is all new circuits to them, which is why it's such a joy to race here. So this is how it looks in the championship at the moment, and would you look at that? Niles Corr and Simon Povey tied on points, 52 points apiece. They've both had one pretty poor race each, and both of them happened at Suzuka. Race 1 didn't go well for Simon Povey, and race 2 didn't go well for Niles Corr. But Taylor Adams hangs on to third in the championship with 48 points at the moment. He's been a real star so far this season, hasn't he, Ed? He's really just been hanging in there under the radar and scoring the points. So much so, actually, that Povey asked me if I'd calculated them properly earlier, because Taylor has been so under the radar this season. It's been great, hasn't it?
It has been, and it's been really great to see. Obviously, at Okayama, he wasn't really on the pace as such, but that was partly down to his strategy that he was pulling off. Just lowering his lap times a little bit to save more fuel to make it on a single stop really catapulted him up the order towards the end of the race. So it's something that the drivers might have to think about here. If you can save a little bit of fuel on the way down the mountain, that could certainly help to make it a one-stop race.
I do apologise, everybody, for the any volume issues that you might have had from me before now. I realised that everything was seemingly turned down on OBS. I did that for the sake of the videos not being ridiculously loud, but it seems like they've all... well, everything has come out really quiet, including Ed, so apologies for that. But we will get straight into the action here at Bathurst, and a lot of the drivers and the teams in particular are going to be certainly enjoying themselves out there, but it is Niles Corr that is currently fastest in the BMW as he makes his way down towards Skyline, one of the scariest parts on the circuit. I think survival is going to be key here this evening, isn't it, Ed? It's definitely one of the most important things out there on this wonderful, wonderful mountain.
Lovely circuit, and you can see that Niels Gore is really at home here, putting in fastest lap after fastest lap in this practice session. Of course, a few minutes to go until we see the cars lapping in anger for qualifying, and that could be interesting to see what tactics are employed by the drivers that have teammates to help them out. Obviously, Altitude Esports, Adam Watson and Arthur Thurtle will be probably out on track together, as they were at the last round, weren't they? Towing each other wonderfully to try and get pole position, which they did, I think. Actually, no, they didn't they? They lost out to Simon Povey at the end, but they were leading then for most of the early phase of the race. And I think the thing about Altitude Esports is that they have a lot of good pace, but maybe their inexperience in this sort of SRM style of championship is what throws them off, because they were great in the sprint races, but when you get towards the endurances, they just seemingly don't quite have the measure of the strategies that are needed for it yet.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's a niche format what we do here with the 40% fuel limit as well. Drivers have to really think about what they're doing and be so careful about what they're doing. And if I'm honest with you, not everyone will get it right first time, but this is why it's a sort of test in many ways for the season ahead, the 4th season of the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge. I'm happy to say that we have some dates lined up for that, I think. We're just making sure everything ticks as many boxes as possible, then we can get it all sorted. And we should be able to release those dates within the next coming weeks, so everyone will know roughly where they're going to be at. But it's great to watch this Aston Martin glide its way back down the hill with Arthur Thurtle at the wheel. James Holman is just starting his lap in this practice session now in the number 5 Aston Martin. Of course, our most recent winner in the championship, having that fantastic strategy work for him at Okayama. And again, it was just perfect driving all the way through by James Holman. He had to commit to the strategy from the very get-go, he said, and it wasn't easy, because even as far as, or as early as turn 2, he was having to lift and coast. So shows you how he had to switch it on straight away.
Yeah, but that's what you have to do to make those strategies work. You need to have the game plan before the lights go out and you go racing, because that's the way you get the most out of this sort of race. Endurance racing is all about preparation in beforehand, and while it is only an hour-long race, the same sort of principles are just as important when you come into the pits, making sure you're not in some traffic, which was what we saw, I think, with, wasn't it, Adam Watson, I think, got caught up in traffic last time out, which was what really hurt his race.
Arthur Thurtle was the one.
Thurtle was, sorry, yes, it was Adam Watson was the technical issues, wasn't it?
Yes.
Saw in the mid phase of that race. But again, I think another thing to point out about GD Sports is that while in the championship they're not looking as high up as maybe their pace is suggesting, I reckon in this next half of the season they're really going to get a kick on, because they've had those first few rounds to get to grips with the championship, to get to grips with the cars around them, how they like to race and figure out the different driving styles of everybody, and now we might start to see them properly kick on and make a charge.
Yeah, you'd certainly hope so, because it's all about just getting that little bit of experience and knowing who they're racing against as well. That's one of the important things here. There's such a great level of respect and fantastic positive camaraderie amongst all of the drivers and teams here in the Sim Racing Magazine community. Everybody just takes a bit of time to get used to who they're racing with, but the standards are usually very, very high here, so we know that those guys will fit right in once it takes a few more rounds, just so they can have and realise the confidence that they can carry from one race to the next. Speaking of confident, I know that Gary Tall is pretty confident about tonight. This circuit doesn't really suit the Porsche so much, but Gary's been doing quite a bit of practice and was certainly given a very positive boost after his result at Okayama. He's had a few tough rounds in the past, and he's had a tough year technically with PC issues troubling him for a long time, so it's been good to see him get back out there in the Spontex CDM Esports Porsche. Earl in the chat, Mr. Penny, good evening, sir, hope you're doing well. Great to see you in the chat, mate. Sorry that we can't have you with us here this evening. Ryan is unfortunately, I think he said he pulled his back or his neck, and he was struggling to get in the rig and race comfortably, so he's having a week off, and hopefully heals up very soon and gets better soon, and we'll be back on track. This man's still right up there though here, Ed. Taylor Adams sitting in 5th place at the moment. It's amazing he's actually gone under the radar, considering how bright, shiny purple the car is, isn't it, to be honest?
Yeah, it's certainly easy to spot out on the racetrack, even if sometimes he likes to try and be hidden and just go about his business with a minimum of fuss. But like I say, he's got some good pace around here, and with how strong the slipstream is going to be, as he follows
double tap.
his sort of car ahead. I think that was Guy Edwards just ahead of him, wasn't it? Both having the same incident.
The noise
That's
it
the
makes.
danger of the mountain. The tunnel vision sets in.
That was I've got to listen to it again. Just listen to the noise it makes. That's just painful. So we go back to live pictures, and the session will now tick over to qualifying. This open qualifying session, which will be a very busy pit lane exit, I'm sure, as everybody makes their way out. Other than Nils Core, who was obviously fastest in that practice there, Ed, anybody that you reckon we should keep an eye on, and which car do you reckon will be the best choice around here?
Well, I think the car that we were just watching, actually, Taylor Adams, is going to be interesting to see him up inside that top 5 in practice with some very good times. It was, again, though, great to see an illustration of what might catch some of these drivers out is that tunnel vision effect, where he basically followed the same mistake with Guy Edwards coming out of Forest's elbow. So that's going to be something, I think, not just to worry about in qualifying, but also in the races. Drivers maybe just losing a little bit of focus or just copying lines of the cars ahead and making those exact same mistakes.
Yeah, it's very easy to do so, isn't it? We've seen it on even some of the bigger circuits as well before, where drivers push that little bit too hard, and it's very, very easy to follow the car in front of you and just overdo it that slight bit. One of the guys that's been impressive so far, or a bunch of the guys that have been impressive so far, are the Minardi SimSport drivers. It seems like we don't have Nico with us here this evening, unfortunately, but Ben Chalcraft and Mike Murphy are out there supporting the team. Mike Murphy particularly impressive so far in this championship. The two of them are just outside of the top 10 in the points. Mike's 11th on 20 points and Ben Chalcraft has 17 points. So the two of them still close together-ish, but it's so tight up and down the order, isn't it, with everybody here. And again, it just proves that we've got another good point system that's working for us.
Absolutely, and I mean, we've got two drivers tied on points for first place. We've seen that time and time again in the last season, didn't we, of the GT4 Championship, where it was right down to the wire in the final round. And I'll tell you what, I would not be surprised if we see that again here in this GT4 Winter Tour.
No,
like you say, we've got a different. We're using this to get some different ideas. I'm not sure what the format will be for Season 4. That's again something that I think we're going to have to figure out once this season draws to a close, as well with some tracks that we might be going to, because obviously this is going to be our first time going on sort of a Asia and then Australia sort of tour, just to see what works around here and get an idea for the future of this this wonderful championship.
Well, the thing is, it's a good testing ground because we literally run it as a championship for a bit of fun, really, and then, well, we can use it to our best advantage to then have it as a testing ground. This is the latest livery on Pete Thickett's car, by the way, with the chicken on one side and a very chrome other side of the car, which actually says Scuderia Chicken House many times in that pattern. It's another interesting livery, which he's going to change week on week. It's the Sebastian Vettel effect. They actually had a rule against me changing my livery so much previously in the World GT Championship called the Chaz rule, because our team, Thrust Vector, liked to change our camouflage, because all of our cars were in a sort of military and aviation camouflage. We changed them every round based on where we were in the world, so we used different nations' camouflages on the cars. And yeah, it eventually got banned halfway through the season. We weren't allowed to do it anymore. We ran red Ferraris at Maranello. Well, not at Maranello, sorry, at Monza. We had, I think when we were in America, we had some sort of ABU and ACU digital camouflage. When we went back to Europe, we had a sort of Swedish jigsaw camouflage pattern, and even some old Russian flanker camouflage as well, like we've seen on John Roberts' cars previously as well, although that was Ukrainian, not Russian.
Yeah, the lovely Ukrainian sort of urban digital camo was on his Aston Martin. That was a lovely livery.
It's funny actually, getting a bit nerdy while the first times come in. The SU-27 flankers of the Ukrainian Air Force were always in a bit of a softer, rounder blue and grey camouflage, but when they received what was known as the P1M digital upgrade to sort of update the electronics of the SU27s, they actually painted them in digital camouflage to mark the fact that they'd been updated, because there was visually no difference. So there we go.
Lovely, lovely stuff. Obviously, just those little tweaks can make a big difference as well to sort of the aesthetics of the aircraft in general, make them look completely different in a way, isn't it? Just the way they contour around the shape of the body, like we see with these cars out on circuit. You can really make the most of the cars you have, and like you can see here, this Aston Martin, it really accentuates the bonnet there being in black, where the sides are nice and sort of shiny and magenta, as we have the first times coming through. Mike Horder to the top, but not for long, as Guy Edwards just pips him, and then so does James Holman. So RD Simsport currently first and second, although it is RD Simsport and then RD Simsport 2.
Yes.
With James Holman and Guy Edwards respectively.
I was amazed Taylor Adams' time actually counted, because he hit the wall quite hard at a Forest Elbow. By the look of it anyway, it looked like he rode the wall as, wow, look at that. Niels Kaur, he is 1.1
so comfortable around here, it seems.
Yes, I couldn't find words for that. That is, wow. That is very, very good stuff by Niels Kaur. BMW working unlike that camera angle there, because clearly I set it up without knowing where the overlay was going to appear. Dominic Brennan is coming down the Conrod straight in towards the chase in the Spontex CDM Esports Unwrapped car, doing this without slipstream, and that's the thing really, you don't want to get much slipstream around here, because you can easily get stuck behind the other drivers when you're going over the mountain. So Dom's just sort of taking it upon himself to lap on his own here in the cardboard car and see whether he can go fastest. He's got a purple sector 2. Philip Hopley's going well as well. Let's see what Dominic can do here.
Go that off the final bend now, and up to the line where will Dominic Brennan go as he breaks the timing beam. Third fastest, and again, nobody is close to Niels Kaur at all. He's got over a second gap to second place, which is mind-boggling. We've seen plenty of the drivers attempt to put a lap time through, but still, with 8.5 minutes to go in this session, that's a very comfortable advantage indeed.
Really is. Simon Povey backed out of his lap, and it says he's 9.7 seconds off, so he's clearly not set a representative time yet. Taylor Adams has improved on all of his sectors on this second lap, so let's see what he can do as he crosses the line now. There's going to be a lot of green sectors coming through. He doesn't improve in the final sector, but look at that. Michael Seal goes second fastest, faster than Taylor Adams as well. That's a great time by Michael Seal in the Mercedes. He's been getting used to this car a lot more, to be fair. Simon Povey improves into third position. Then Adam Watson goes second for altitude. What about James Holman? He's just crossed the line in the background. He goes third fastest. No improvement there, actually, by Arthur Thurtle. He remains 3.5 seconds off. Christopher Smith has asked whether we will go on board with Niles, and he's got a great point. We probably should when he goes up to the mountain. He's just going around the final corners now. Has he improved on his time? Heinz Mayer, Kim Such, Ralph Mayer. He's done a purple sector 2 as Nils, but I don't know if that's going to be enough.
Backed out of that last lap.
Yeah.
And now is going for a second one. So we might as well go on board with him as he powers his way out of Hell Corner. It is so difficult to get it pitched in nicely and then power out.
Crimson in the chat saying those Minardi Simsport guys, do they sleep in their rig? They probably do, to be fair, at this point. They've gone full commitment for this championship, and we absolutely love to see it. Good to see you all in the chat, by the way. Drew Fletcher's in there as well as Earl. Rob Sutherland was helping out with the audio earlier on. Thank you very much, mate. He's here to support his drivers. Thomas F is in the chat, and Archie asking when the next Microsoft Flight Simulator video is coming out. I've not recorded any more yet, unfortunately, my friend, so I don't know is the honest answer to that. I think I've got one planned to be done by the next sort of week and a half, I reckon, maybe the end of next week, but that's not completely planned yet, so we'll see. And no, this is Ed May in the commentary box with me for this evening. I want to go back on board actually with Nils through here. Let's see what the commitment's like.
So close to the wall. He was really close to the wall actually on the inside of the cutting as well, so we're going to see exactly how he then approaches Skyline. Really on the ragged edge of running into the walls off the limits. A little bit wider than right there, but just carrying so much speed and momentum down through the hill. He's really pushing hard. He's going to have to hope that this car ahead doesn't impede him on the way through Forest's Elbow.
It's Ralph Mayer, one of the championship sponsors, actually, with Oris Digital and Crockery Direct. A shout out as well to Derbyshire Holiday Homes, the other sponsor of the championship, for continuing to support the Sim Racing Magazine community, our events, and of course the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Winter Tour. This has worked out for Nils actually, because he's got some slipstream here, but oh no, Ralph doesn't fight it. Ralph gets on the brakes. That's really respectful stuff from Ralph. Dives out of the way, and Nils comes now into the chase. This is going to be very tidy by the look of it. Nice and smooth through there. It's not easy, is it, that part, because you're going over a big crest. Aidan Millward in the chat as well. Great to see you, Aidan. Hope you're doing well, mate. There's a purple sector in the middle here for Nils at this point, Ed, but it doesn't look that grand. Let's have a look.
No, but it was the same last time around as well. He's pushing hard. I don't think it's going to be enough, but still a very good lap time into the 2-minute 13s. It's about half a second off his previous best, though, so still a little bit of time potentially for Nils to be found. Obviously, he was able to improve somewhere through the middle sector. Got some time in the session as well, of course. With this being an endurance style round, the drivers do have a chance to finish their lap times rather than in the heat style racing of the 2 sprints. Drivers are essentially cut off as soon as the checkered flag drops. So there's no more time. But here, get to watch a little bit more of qualifying and hope that the drivers can have some late improvements as the track begins to evolve and develop.
Ben Chalcraft puts his first time on the board there and goes 15th fastest, just ahead of Gary Tull. You can see this place definitely doesn't suit the Porsche. Gary is the fastest Porsche out there at the moment in 16th position. Tom Weston, Heinz Mayer, Kim Such, Ralph Mayer, they're all in the Porsches, and it is not working for that car around here, unfortunately.
I think here we go, Chaz. I've just noticed Nils Cora's really on a good lap here. I think he struggled out of the first corner on that last lap, but this lap he's really pushing hard. But now he's got some traffic in an area that could hold him up.
Yeah, he's going down into the dipper now. You've got to turn in so early, and yeah, unfortunately for him, Kim Such is not... Well, it's not, I mean, Kim's within his right. He's on a fast lap as well.
Yeah. It's not quite as up to speed with the sort of mountain section as Nils Cora. And I tell you what, Nils is really putting on a great shift in the BMW, which I was surprised to see do so well around here, especially on the mountain section. We know it's going to be great in a straight line. That's its sort of strongest attribute. But in terms of being able to pitch the car through into the corners and have that responsiveness that you need, it's amazing that he's able to drive this car as well as he is.
Yeah, absolutely. He's certainly one of those guys that's just nailed the car. That's the thing. You have to really take some time to get used to these machines. Aidan's asking if we've got a colour corrector on stream. You might have just seen it blink on and off for a moment there. I used to have a slight colour correction on and a bit more contrast added to iRacing, because it's always got this sort of yellowy, greeny tint, but we've turned it back to how it is, just on its own. And this is iRacing, but with a slight sharpening effect on it, but not much, to be fair. Only the in-sim sharpening is actually turned on at this point in time. Andy Hopley's just gone 3rd fastest in the BMW as well. Gets one of those big beefy M4s up near the front of the grid as well, inside the top 10. All 3 of them actually inside the top 10, because Guy Edwards now sits in 6th position as well. So definitely a BMW track this, and that's one of the best things about this GT4 category, isn't it, Ed? We always talk about balance of performance in GT racing, but here on iRacing, these are using standard iRacing setups, what is known as the sprint fixed setup, and it is so well balanced, isn't it, really? With there's always a circuit where one car will do well and where other cars might not. It's a really solid balance, I think.
Yeah, well, you have been umming and ahhing about thinking, are we going to change the setups at all at some point? If they do a different build of iRacing, what that's going to do in terms of the balance of performance. But so far, it's been really open for the drivers to make any sort of car work. It's great to see. And of course, while the that was Guy Edwards just pushing a bit too hard out of Forrest's elbow, he seems to carry on. It's like there wasn't really any damage done to it. I think there might be a slight tag on the front right, but
la-di-da, we call him.
He's going to keep going. He's going to keep going. Fair enough.
Built like tanks.
Yeah. Probably the wall was dealt more damage than his car there in that BMW.
Yeah, that's very true, actually. Very, very true. It's certainly puts the wall back a couple of feet. Simon Povey not having the best of times in this McLaren right now, is he? He's down in 7th position. Dominic Brennan, his teammate, is in 9th place. Then the next McLaren is Mike Murphy in 13th. Then Ben Chalcraft, his teammate. Simon not happy with the lap, clearly, as he demonstrates.
I'll tell you who's having an even worse time, though, and that's Arthur Thurtle. He's really struggling out there, down in 19th position. He's not really been able to get potentially a representative lap or a lap time he's happy with, because he was certainly up there in the top 10 from the practice session, but at the moment he's just really struggling as Niels Cora is going to come through to complete this lap, and has he got clear track ahead to push on for one more? I think he does, so while this time might not be enough to improve, with plenty of space out in front, he could be able to improve yet again on that impressive 2-minute 13.3 that is currently top of the standings. Arthur Thurtle will get across the line to finish this lap and start one more. Might be one of the few drivers to be able to get an extra lap, and now he sets a time that's a bit more what we were expecting from Arthur into the 2:14.3, so roughly where we saw his pace in practice, but I think he can just edge a few more tenths out of there, and that could easily catapult him up onto the second row.
Well, the checkered flag comes out then, and the next drivers to cross the line will be completing the session, basically. Mike Horder is going to be one of those drivers in this gorgeous-looking Mercedes from Boosted Motorsport. Fantastic-looking race car indeed in their 2023 livery. Oh, dearie me, smacks the curb on the inside. Crosses the line with 3 green sectors, hopefully an improvement for him. Does improve, but doesn't gain a place, does Mike Horder, and he remains in 11th position. Just shows you how hotly contested this field is, though, for this winter championship, is the fact that the drivers like Mike, who are usually qualifying top 5, are battling amongst the sort of top 15 drivers that could all be right up there. This is Toby Johns, new to the paddock. He's just about to complete a lap, but it doesn't look like there's any improvements from him. Adam Watson's currently second fastest. He's done 1 green sector here. It might have been a very, very good one, though. You never know. Around the final corner, that looks a little bit squirrely over the grass. It's so difficult, the final corner here at Bathurst. A lot of people will get caught out by it, and to be fair, I think we may see an incident or two over the course of the night, because they'll dip a wheel onto that grass and end up in the pit wall before they know it, won't they?
Yeah, they will. I like, though, the nice little battle in the sort of top 10, where there's about 5 cars all within a tenth of one another. You've got, obviously, Michael Seal, Claire Edwards, Arthur Thurtle, Simon Povey, and Taylor Adams, all in a nice little battle. So it just shows the fine margins that this Winter Tour is providing us. But will Arthur Thurtle be able to have one late improvement? We're watching Kim Such at the moment through the final corner. No sector improvements apart from that last one, but I don't think that will be enough. No, it won't. So he stays 20th. Taylor Adams now over the line. There is some improvements on the board, and that
nice.
catapults him up all the way into 5th place. That just shows just a few extra tenths can really get you a much better qualifying position. Arthur Thurtle goes across the line but does not improve. Therefore, that's the grid set for the race here tonight, and what a grid it is.
Absolutely, yeah. Another pole position for Niels Cor. Very well done indeed. Adam Watson second, Andy Hopley third, James Holman up there, Taylor Adams fifth. What about Michael Seal, though? 6th position and the highest placed Mercedes. Now, Michael is quick, to be fair. He's very potent as a driver, but he hasn't had much chance to show that so far this season. This is only going to be his 3rd race meeting with us, but he's been a great addition in the AIRaceSummaries.com Kendo team, and he has been a real star. So that is a solid lap by Michael Seal. The session will take just a moment to finish, essentially, and tick over to the next one. And we will give another shout out to our brilliant sponsors, Oris Digital, Crockery Direct and Derbyshire Holiday Homes, of course supporting the Sim Racing Magazine community, and Chaz Draycott Media, for which we are very, very grateful. They have always been supporting us since the very first championship in the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge, which will be returning to your screens in early 2024, I'm happy to say. Like I mentioned earlier, we just have to confirm a couple more of the dates and just get everything aligned properly, because championships have to plan around the iRacing Week 13, where they bring out new updates and new builds. We're going to be getting a new one, I believe. Is it the start of December that we get the new one? And then it's February, isn't it, the next one that comes out, or March? So it's going to be very, very exciting to see what we get in terms of the new stuff, because I think Rain is coming in December, isn't it, Ed?
I think they're alluding to it, aren't they? They've said there's a few previews. I think it's going to be car specific, though, from what I've seen. So
right,
just to fine tune it, basically a bit like the new damage model.
Yes, indeed. Now, hopefully the damage model doesn't come in handy tonight for any of these lot. Niels Kor on pole position. The German is absolutely on form at the moment, leads the championship and puts it on the top step for now. Adam Watson joins him on the front row. Then it's Andrew Hopley and James Holman on row 2. Taylor Adams and Michael Seal make up row 3, ahead of Guy Edwards and Arthur Thurtle. Simon Povey and Dominic Brennan make it an all-cardboard 5th row of the grid, and to be fair, they're both going to want to move forward from there. Mike Horder starts 11th alongside Pete Thickett in that very garish machine a bit further down. Matthias Pentila is 13th ahead of Mike Murphy. Mark Johnson is 15th with Ben Chalcraft next. Gary Tall is down in 17th with Tom Weston alongside him. Heinz Mayer is 19th with Kim Such in 20th. Then it's Ralph Mayer and Philip Hopley in 22nd, with Toby Johns rounding out the field in 23rd place. 23 cars here tonight, Ed, and still a very solid grid all the same. And typically I've placed that camera in an awful position so we don't get to see the grid, but there it is. And we have the big Beamer against the beefy Aston Martin on the front row. It's going to be a very imperative first couple of corners here for Niels Kor, because Adam Watson, as we know, is very, very quick, isn't he?
Yeah, he is certainly very fast. I think it was actually Adam Watson that we had to talk to after Okayama, where he was talking about the Aston Martin. It might be struggling around here, but we saw its credentials at Fuji, a circuit that requires a good straight line speed, and it certainly held its own and led for much of the race there. So I think we could be seeing a bit of turn up for the books, and maybe Niels Kor won't be as unchallenged in this race as he was in qualifying.
So let's see then what these guys can manage for tonight, shall we? Niels Kor will lead the grid away. He's got fellow BMW driver Andy Hopley just behind him, and a great lineup of cars coming away from the Conrod Straight. There's certainly a lot of drivers that will be expecting... Oh, that's not good for Niels, is it? Having a blink in and out like that. There's a bunch of drivers that will be expecting to sort of make their way through the order over the course of this race, but they're going to have to display a lot of patience because, much like at Monaco, grid position is so important here, track position is so important. And let's not forget there's slipstreaming and all sorts of strategies that could come into play tonight. 40% fuel is the limit for these cars for tonight. There was a worry about the Aston Martin setup coming into tonight, but it seems fine. And as they come out of the final corner, round 5 of the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Winter Tour gets underway from Mount Panorama, and it's a very even start for Niels Kor and Adam Watson. Adams round the outside, moves this way and that way, tries to get close to Niels and offset him. He goes round the outside of Hell Corner, and you know what? He's going to get the run from that as well. It's a great strategy, and it's worked for Adam Watson. Adam takes the lead in the first corner. Niels is going to get the slipstream off him now. It seems like everybody else has got through nice and tidy a bit further down. The slipstreaming begins. Looks like Guy Edwards has to get out of it there as Arthur Thurtle goes side by side with him. Arthur wanting to come over a little bit by the look of it. Arthur now looking down the inside of Michael Seal, the Aston Martin down the inside of the Mercedes. There's a little bit of contact, I think, a bit of rubbing. Slows them down slightly as they make their way up the hill. Oh no, there's a car around in the background. Mike Horder is in there as well, so is Matthias Pentila. Hopefully nobody else involved, and the two of them sit trackside. Mike Horder straight out of the car straight away so it doesn't block the road. That's lovely stuff, and unfortunate though that accident has happened. Seemed like he just dipped a wheel on the curb maybe, or just bounced off the side of another car there, Ed. What do you reckon?
Might have just been the curbs, and we saw that at Suzuka, didn't we, where the curbs were just proving the cars undoing, especially on these cold tyres. That's going to be really tricky. Hopefully we don't see many more of those, because that is a real shame. Mike Horder and Pentila were certainly drivers to keep an eye on in this race. Now as they go down through the S's, the guy was up in 8th place, on into his top 10 spot from the 2 Spontex CDM Esports cardboard cars trying to chase him down. Arthur Thurtle there in the 6th position, just dropping back a little bit from the rear end of Taylor Adams.
Yeah, absolutely. Taylor's had a solid first lap, so has the entire top 5, but that battling has certainly helped them out and helped them gain a little advantage. What a great start though by Adam Watson, very determined around the outside of Niels Kor, and Niels will try and stick with him as best he can in that big BMW. He's got Andy Hopley behind him as well, looking for a race victory. Andrew's won a race in the championship in the past in the Aston Martin. He's definitely going to be hoping to repeat that now. It's been a while since we've seen him take a victory. Pete Thickett in the Scuderia Chicken House car all over the back of Dominic Brennan's McLaren. It's not often that we see the roles reversed like this with the Aston Martin and the McLaren, but it seems like this isn't a McLaren circuit as much here this evening. There was a bit of a move going on in front there as Guy Edwards tries it on Michael Seal. Michael's lost just one place from where he started. It's Arthur Thurtle that's made his way past both of these guys. And now Guy Edwards is actually under attack from Povey. You can make the outside of Hell Corner work because of the run on the exit. just doesn't seem like Simon can make it work there. He's now got his teammate for company as Brennan goes side by side with him. Well, cardboard boxes do stack, so they go side by side down the straight. Pete Thicket behind them, quite the opposite in terms of spec map. Listen to those things roar by. A camera angle may be rubbish, but it sounds good. And there's a bit of a gap back to Mike Murphy as well from these boys, so they can have a good scrap and not feel too guilty about it. You can see one of the only livery differences there between the two cars, actually. Dominic Brennan with green wing mirrors, Simon with just plain cardboard. They make their way now up to the cutting, and I think Pete Thickett's going to make this work around the outside. You know, that's lovely stuff on the Aston, but Dominic's later on the brakes. The two of them make a little bit of contact. Oh, he dents the cardboard against the wall, and Pete Thicket goes in front. Don't think Dom's going to be too happy with that one, Ed.
Yeah, he's not, but I don't think he can really be all too aggrieved. He did go a little bit, I think, too deep and initially the first contact on the inside before then hitting the wall. So Dominic's, I think, lucky to escape with minor damage, if there is any, to his car. Seems to be driving just about fine. Adam Watson now under a little bit of pressure from Niels Kor, who's chasing down the lead of the race. Adam with a great move, wasn't it, into Health Corner at the first time of asking, all the way around the outside, which just helped him power his way up the mountain straight in through Quarry Bend. Got the job done. But now Niels Kor is just going to focus on maybe trying to take back the lead of the race, or maybe even managing, saving the fuel and trying a different strategy. It's what we saw him do at Fuji to take the victory there, so maybe we'll see it here tonight.
You never know. This is on board with Michael Seal and the Mercedes. Highest placed Merc in the field by a long shot, actually, because he's the only one that's not had a drama so far. Pentila and Horder both had dramas, and also Philip Hopley's had one as well. Guy Edwards goes down the inside. Lovely move to cut back by Michael Seal, but maybe a little bit too greedy turning in like that. No, he's going to hit the wall. Oh, goodness me, that's a big, big impact. And, well, I said something about Mercedes having dramas, and there's another one. As Gary Tall gets close with Mark Johnson there. I think Mark had his own little drama. Michael Seal, though, went hard into the wall. I think he was, like I say, just a little bit greedy with turning into the right there, and he just bounced off the side of Guy Edwards' BMW, didn't he?
Yeah, just a little bit, and that just shows that one small mistake, it wasn't a huge misstep, it was just one little moment and one moment of indecision. You can hear him on the throttle, a little bit indecisive, and then trying to get back onto the circuit kicks him off one way and the other, but just because of how aggressive that curve is when you're trying to rejoin. And sadly, that's what's taken him out of the race. He's really had some run luck, even though he's had some great pace. It's just those little moments where the wrong decision is made in that split second.
Absolutely,
it just seems to undo him.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's easy to get flustered in those moments, and unfortunately, that's what's happened there. Gary Toll's the biggest mover in the field, by the way, so far. We saw him making a move on Mark Johnson a moment ago. He's gained 5 places in this race. Pete Thicket has gained 4. So there's been some solid starts to this race in the first 5 minutes. Can't believe 5 minutes has already gone by. It only feels like we've done one lap. Adam Watson still leads this race, but only by half a second from Niels Kor. Niels is right with him, and Andy Hopley is right with James Holman, or vice versa, I should say. James Holman all over the back of Andy Hopley, but it's very much BMWs and Aston Martins at the front here. It's amazing to see the Aston going so well again after it was slated through Season 3 of the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge.
Yeah, especially when you compare it to last season as well, where we saw mainly McLarens and the odd Mercedes out in front. This is a complete reversal of what we've been seeing, and maybe we'll notice a few drivers respond to that when we do go to Season 4 of the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge. And who knows, we could see a real shake-up of the cars we see on the grid and the drivers inside them, because who knows, we might see some of the Apex lot switch away from their McLarens, or maybe even Simon Povey might switch from McLaren. He made the switch before. He was originally a Porsche driver, and switched to the Aston Martin, and since switched to the McLaren. So it's not like these drivers are sort of married to their cars. They can move about and chop and change depending on their mood and what they reckon is going to best suit them for the coming seasons. And that adds an extra level of intrigue, doesn't it, for the drivers that have raced in different cars. They know exactly how they handle, and that can give them sometimes the advantage against some drivers that they've only raced with one car because they don't really know how the others behave. Look at this, though. Niels Kor using his car strength to advantage. Great straight line speed up the inside through Quarry Bend. We just missed the sort of point of overtake there, but that was still lovely by Niels to now get up into the race and hoping to break away out ahead.
It's funny actually, Christopher Smith said in the YouTube chat not long ago, it's not Sim Racing Magazine unless Nils is sitting in the draft saving fuel. Well, he's proved him wrong. Now goes into the race lead. It's whether Adam has a response for that. You can hear them scraping the wall through there. Just that horrible sound of metal on concrete as the wing mirrors drag along. But Watson's done a good job of leading this race so far. At the end of the day, it was just a straight line overtake by Niels Kaur. Not really anything Adam can do about that within reason. That Aston looks and sounds great as it drops down there. It's always a car, isn't it, that's looked very soft and spongy. Always looks like the suspension's made of fluffy marshmallows because the way it glides around, it's not gliding very well for Adam Watson there, though. And that is a big, big hit into the wall. Again, we've seen Adam just push that little bit too hard sometimes in the first couple of rounds, and it seems like he's pushing a bit too hard to try and get with Nils. And look at that. Hopley's now giving him a bit of a helping hand down the conrod. That's scary.
Yeah, he's going to have to be very careful through the right-hander there to not upset the rear end and force him into a spin.
I wonder whether there's damage.
So good. We'll have a look and see if we can go to an onboard if that car's going to be driving straight or not. Just can't seem to see it through our graphics.
He's feeling for it though. He's moving around, so it just looked like as he first came out of the out of Forest Elbow, I should say, after bouncing off the wall, it seemed like it wasn't quite straight, but looks okay now. It seems like it's not so bad, but I guess you've got to take it easy for a couple of corners and feel for what the car is doing. Simon Povey hasn't been able to get away from Pete Thickett here. It's return of the Aston Martin, this one. It's great to see that car so competitive again. Pete Thickett's literally in a cardboard box right now with these two McLarens around him. Might find a couple of scourers and sponges at the bottom of it, maybe even a mop. But that chicken is certainly shiny enough. It doesn't need cleaning by the Sponsex machines. Dominic Brennan gets a demon run out of Hell Corner. No pun intended there, actually. Heading down the straight, and he's going to go down the inside of the Aston Martin now into Quarry. You can see Simon giving him a little bit of slipstream. Through he goes, and Pete Thickett has one of them horrible four-wheel drifts that the Aston Martin's known for, doesn't he? And has to get out of it.
Yeah, it seems like it, but it seems like the hedgehogs have got the better of the chicken for now. A weird turf war at Old MacDonald's farm or something.
I like that.
With chasing down at ninth place spot occupied by Pete Thickett. Again, it's just love these onboard shots where you can see the suspension working its way through the mountain, over the curbs, over the little bumps and dips on the tarmac. You can really see as well just how the car responds when it's nice and light going on the downhill, and then when we see as we go through Wilkham's drop, just the way the car will compress. Look at that, wonderful stuff. It's something you rarely see on other sims modelled so well, but here on iRacing, those little calculations that are done behind the scene that then get transferred over to our end, it just works seamlessly. It's brilliant.
Yeah, for those that don't know, iRacing, for those that are watching the session, works on a 1 second render delay. So it calculates how it will look within that 1 second and projects it beautifully to those that are watching. So you see the car interact with curbs and the surface almost millimetre perfect. You know, sometimes, yeah, sure, the tyre deforms into the ground and into the curb a little bit, but you're only talking a few millimetres if that, and it just, the way the cars move and behave is so easy to read on iRacing compared to other sims, and that's why it broadcasts so well as well. You know, that with the camera dampening, look at where the car is on your screen. It's never perfectly in the middle all the time. It's just, yeah, such a natural thing to watch, and that's why it's such a joy to broadcast and commentate on it, I guess. Looks like these guys are starting to spread out a little bit. Simon Povey getting a bit further away from Dominic Brennan, but he's definitely got pressure still from Pete Thickett and Guy Edwards. The race lead is now 1.5 seconds for Niels Kaur. He's actually under pressure, though, is Adam Watson, from Andy Hopley now, so he's certainly not out of the woods yet. That BMW's a very menacing machine. It may be in a gorgeous sort of retro synthwave style livery. I think it looks fantastic.
Pushing on is Andy. We know that he's a very competitive racer, especially from my time as his teammate. He was always trying to push me to find those extra few tenths to try and get the better of him, and it was great to have him back in this GT4 Winter Tour. Hopefully we'll see more of him in the coming seasons of the SRM GT4 Challenge. At the moment, though, you can see the car is not quite as strong through the mountain. Watson's able to pull a bit of a gap, but then on the way down in towards Forest Elbow, that gap suddenly comes way back to him.
Yeah, it's a very. It's almost like there's a bungee cord on the back of the Aston Martin, isn't there? But I tell you what, it'd have to be a mighty strong one to pull this big fat BMW along, wouldn't it? The number 25 car looks lovely on the left-hand side as Andy Hopley decides to rip all the vinyl off the right, as much fuel saving as possible and weight saving. I'm intrigued by the fact they've managed to get away from James Holman as well. James is usually, I mean, he's a Legends racer, so he's usually absolutely all-out gung-ho everywhere. But maybe he's playing again to a fuel strategy here. Maybe he's not going flat out everywhere. He's a very, very potent driver, though, as we've seen. The most recent winner of a round of this championship at Okayama just last week. But it seems like Holman at the moment is just playing the game. He's playing it safe, as Andy Hopley has now got past Adam Watson. I wonder whether Adam just had a bit of a moment on the exit of the chase there. We'll have a look back at it again. There's not really been a lot of overtaking, you know. There's only been 2 overtakes since Nils Court took the race leaders. Oh, Adam's clipped the grass, and then look at that run. Andy's just able to dig the BMW down the inside, and to be fair to Adam, he ran wide there to make sure there was still room for Andy on his right-hand side, so much so that he was on the curb for a bit.
Yeah, and now it's all about Andy trying to catch up to Nils Court, but this is working a treat for Nils out in front. That gap now 2.5 seconds. He's got clear air behind him to just now focus on the road ahead, not worrying about the cars behind him. That could be a danger, just to allow him to get even more pace out of the car and just pump in those fast lap times to get away from the chasing pack in behind. Adam Watson, I think, is going to be regretting that mistake, because he was certainly within a shot of keeping Nils Court honest. That gap was around about 1.5 seconds, but now all of a sudden it's up to 3. And all the time he spends in behind Andy, he's just going to see it get further and further far from him. Watson, you can see, just trying his best through these corners. Again, these cars are slightly affected by dirty air, and that's just by being unsighted. Another mistake.
Yeah, Adam just trying again very, very hard and pushing as hard as possible in this Aston Martin to get back with the BMWs. And that little side of inconsistency there from him just knocks him against the wall. Hopefully, again, it hasn't damaged the car too much. Seems like quite a sturdy car, the Aston Martin. But again, look, just trying that bit too hard. He's going to get more and more frustrated the more this happens. It's easy to drive with the red mist.
If there's some damage or something, because that looked like it was going from...
James.
You can see that he's trying to find a way through, but there is no quarter given. I do worry, though, if there is a little bit of damage or something potentially on Adam Watson's car, because it doesn't seem to be behaving. We've seen a catalogue of mistakes and missteps creeping on through, as diving up the inside goes James Holman. He gets it stopped nicely on the exit.
That was a great stop.
Really nicely done through the chase. As that's Pete Thickett losing out to Guy Edwards.
Yeah, Guy gets it stopped nicely as well. Really solid stuff there from those guys on the brakes into that chicane. That is not easy to do there. That really is not easy to do. Let's have a look at James Holman get this stopped again. I don't know how he got this stopped, to be honest with you. It looked like he was going miles too late on the brakes. Just bleeds it off beautifully, makes the apex. A bit of trail braking, parks it on the apex, and Adam Watson has not got a response for that. That was fantastic stuff by Holman, showing his real-world racing experience there, I think, and keeping a car like that stable on the apex of a corner that goes over a crest. That's brilliant driving.
Yeah, as well about the brakes. We know sometimes in these cars, if you dip into the ABS, the car will just go straight. So it was so finely poised for James Holman to get that car stopped how he did. Now he's got a different car up ahead in the sights. It's not the Aston Martin, it's the BMW of Andrew Hopley.
Well, for now, if he keeps hitting the wall like he just did on the way into the cutting there, he won't be there for very long, because he's hit the right-hand side of that Beamer a couple of times by now. And to be fair, I imagine there's a few drivers throughout the field that are starting to sort of make bigger and bigger dents in their cars as this race goes on. Tom Weston is quite close to Heinz Meyer, or vice versa, a bit further down the order, these two Porsches. Heinz is just gradually closing in on the AIRaceSummaries.com Kendo car ahead, just 8 tenths between them. So they now make their way back up the hill. We brought the track map up not long ago just to show you sort of how spread out the field is, and there's still quite a decent train of cars altogether. But they are spreading out individually at this moment in time. There's not really any battles within a second other than maybe these guys. We've got Gary Tall just in front of Mark Johnson in the newly liveried Legends Racing Aston Martin. The gorgeous orange car chasing the little hedgehog Porsche down the hill. again, I mentioned the fact that iRacing somehow have made that Cayman look very small and very narrow, where it's actually quite a low-slung, beefy car in the real world, but for some reason the Aston Martin here looks about 4 times wider than it, and I'm not quite sure why. They've got Mike Murphy ahead of them, by the way, there, Ed. Mike's been under the radar at the moment, just outside the top 10, but he's just losing a bit of time to these guys at the moment, isn't he?
And it's just how the race goes on and potentially how this McLaren uses its tyres. It's a circuit where you do need a lot of mechanical grip, and you need to use every last bit of it. So that might be the McLaren just dipping away in terms of its pace at this stage of the race. As Arthur Thirtle already into the pits, is that potentially due to damage, maybe getting a fast repair put through and then making it work that way around? Because it's certainly a lot earlier than everybody else around him.
Yeah, definitely. He tried this previously, though, didn't he? He was one of the first guys to come in for a pit stop, and then tried to make that strategy work. But it depends on the traffic, because round here, traffic is even worse than it was at Okayama. So maybe, I mean, we mentioned earlier that when you have these strategies, you have to commit to them from the absolute get-go, regardless of whether you think it's working or not. And maybe Arthur's just deciding to stick with this for the season, and he's just making that his strategy because on one occasion it might work really well for him. Let's see where he ends up once the first round of stops have been done.
You just cannot second guess yourself in a championship like this. You have to have a strategy and then commit to it, and if it isn't the right one for the race, you learn from it and you move on. You can't try and realise midway through the race that it's not working out and try and change things, because then you're just going to find yourself even more on the back foot. So I think it's just about committing now. We've seen these well, doing exactly that, and now it's just about focusing on what he could get from the remainder of this race. Andrew Hopley just about 5 seconds back from Nils Coren, just about out of the wall at Forest Elbow. Love how hard the drivers are pushing and how close they get to the wall on the exit. It's all about maximising the speed to take out of that corner all the way down Conrod Straight, because it's so long and it's downhill. It's just all about maximising the speed in towards Griffin's there. Not Griffin, sorry, the Chase.
It's great to see Nils Coren running so beautifully at the front, though. He did this in the Cours au Mans, of course, the Le Mans event that we did. He took his first win in any Sim Racing Magazine GT4 event, actually, at Fuji at the start of the season. It was such a beautiful feel-good story after that great battle with Simon Povey all the way through, making the strategy work, getting ahead of Arthur Thirtle as well. And Nils is so tuned into this BMW. He was so fast in it through the last season, just missed out on the championship. And it's great to see him still running this car in beautiful form. Hello to Dan McCauley as well, a driver from the third season of the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge. He said, mega lap from Nils in quali. I'd hate to be driving that McLaren round here. And it certainly seems like it's not the car to be in. The two Spontex CDM Esports Unwrapped cars are running line astern in 6th and 7th places at the moment. Gary Tall, their stablemate, is still the man with the most places gained. 6 positions for Gary, moving up from 17th on the grid into 11th. He's hoping to get to the top 10 here and overtake Mike Murphy, but he's got the Aston Martin of Mark Johnson, and then Ben Chalcraft has become a part of this as well, actually, just behind these guys in the Minardi SimSport 570S GT4. Really do love the way that these Minardi SimSport cars look. They're almost like a military grey, but with their own little highlights. It's a very less is more livery, but it works so well.
Well, got back to this, isn't it? Try and see if they can get up into the top 10. Lovely on board as well by Ben Chalcraft. You can see, though, that the car's a little bit hesitant, especially over the curbs. And I think that's probably what Dan McCauley was alluding to with not wanting to drive this car, because you can just see the car does not look as stable as when we go on board in something like the Aston Martin and like with in the BMWs that are currently first and second at this moment in time.
Especially down here as well, where the engine just tries to overtake the front end of the car. Gary Toll's had a moment. Gary Toll's gone slowly out of the chicane. I think he's biffed the car and that's it. I think he's broken it, and Ben Chalcraft says, thanks very much, boys. 2 brilliant freebies. Great move by Ben Chalcraft, and through he goes. Gary Toll will be devastated with that one. Absolutely devastated. Let's see what he did here, Ed. Oh, something's failed.
Something's gone wrong,
yeah. I think he races in VR. I think he races in VR and something's gone wrong there. Something's gone very, very wrong for Gary Toll. Oh, this is well too far back, sorry. You'll see what she just straightens up and
Trying
slows
to peel
down.
out of the way.
Yeah.
Dearie me, that's not what Gary Tour was hoping for. You weren't you saying at the start of the broadcast, Chaz, that he was looking forward to racing around here, and all of a sudden it's just gone a bit sideways for him.
It absolutely has. That's a mega shame that for the Porsche driver. He was the highest placed Porsche in the field as well by a good couple of places. Andy Hopley is the first of our front runners into the pits. He's not really had a chance to save any fuel, has he? Because he's constantly been pushing and trying to get past somebody and then constantly trying to chase down Niels Kor. So it's no surprise to see him come in a bit early. Maybe just that one lap though, because there's so much fuel used around here. I don't think we're going to see a big variation in when people come in, do you?
I wouldn't expect to. I wouldn't expect to see a huge difference, but of course, you never know what the drivers opt for. If maybe it was a case of Andy had a bit of fuel left in the tank, but opted for an earlier pit stop. Maybe saw that he could have a chance of coming out into a nice little gap. Maybe also in response to Arthur Thurtle's early pit stop as well.
Yeah, true.
It's all about just deciding what you're going to do in the moment, and as I never second guessing yourself. If you're going to be trying to do laps, if you're thinking, right, I'm going to pit in early, go for an undercut, that's what you've got to do. If you're thinking, I'm going to go as late as I can, again, that's just what you've got to do.
Yeah, you can't sort of change your strategy like that halfway through. You really have to commit to it once you've started it. Hello. Looks like everybody's going to hit that wall. Dan McCauley's mentioned that he was meaning coming out of the pits and heading back down the mountain with new front tyres and old rears. But yeah, the bumps would not be pleasant in that car. I don't think either experience would be, to be honest, whether it's new tyres or old tyres. Still, we've got just over half of this race left to go now, 35.5 minutes. We look here at Pete Thickett chasing down the BMW of Guy Edwards. This Aston Martin has been on form so far this race. James Holman comes into the pit lane here at Bathurst. He makes his way through the chicane, cuts it beautifully. Look at that, slams on. Wow, that was a banzai entrance, but that's something you have to practice here for Bathurst. I played the wonderful PlayStation 2 game Tucker Race Driver recently. It's a playthrough I'm doing on my YouTube channel, and the AI had a colossal accident coming into there and hit the tyre wall. It was very funny. But these guys, well, they've had a chance to practice it, and they're certainly not going to be doing that. James Holman in, up on the jacks for tyres. Same two for Simon Povey. I imagine the same for Dominic Brennan just behind him. And yep, up on the jacks he goes. The Minardi Simsport cars come in. Mike Murphy and Ben Chalcraft. Then Tom Weston. Heinz Mayer also into the pits. But Niels Kor continues on for another lap here. He's done 11 laps so far. This now being his 12th lap of the race. He continues to lead the way in dominant fashion here at Bathurst.
Yeah, I was saying that maybe we'll see him kept a bit more honest by the likes of Adam Watson or maybe Andy Hopley than he was in qualifying, but it seems like no one can touch him on this Mount Panorama circuit. He's just at one with the car on the track. Every single time we see him, he just looks totally in control of things.
Yeah.
There's never a sort of a foot wrong or a moment where you worry, oh, the wall there, that looks out of control. It's just like he's on a nice little Sunday drive, to be honest.
It's German efficiency, isn't it? What was it you said? Precision German engineering, driving precision German engineering when he won in the M8 at Le Mans. Yeah, it's to driver and machine in perfect harmony here with Niels Kor, and it's a joy to watch because he's a lovely guy as well. Admittedly, he came into the championship, raced at Mid-Ohio, and had a bit of a scrappy first race, but since then he's been such a joy to have around. You know, he's always given me good feedback on the championship and the events and what we could do to spice it up and so on. It's you know, it's just a joy to have him about, and he's a real sort of epitome of the community that we have here as well. Word from Gary Toll, by the way, he had a hardware issue coming down the hill, so yeah, he had to get out of it. He's apologised to Mark Johnson as well. Niels Kor's just come into the pits actually in the BMW. So he's the next one in. Adam Watson in. Taylor Adams as well. Look, he is there. He's under the radar and in the tyre wall, but he's definitely there. What about Guy Edwards? He's next in. Pete Thickett following him in as well. Mark Johnson's another 13 seconds back. It looks like that car's really badly damaged, but that's just the outlines on the livery. It's a gorgeous livery. I think Gilles Gardner does his liveries. He had the opposite of this car as well, where it was blue with the orange highlights. Now let's show you the pit stops that the drivers have had. Of course, Andy Hopley is the highest placed driver that has had an pit stop. Niels Kor has come to a halt Andy Hopley was stationary for 22 seconds. Arthur Thurtle stationary for 18. Nils Kors still stationary right now. We'll go on board with Andy Hopley. Nils Kors stationary for 25 seconds, whereas Andy Hopley was stationary for 22. And look at that.
Was right at the end of the pit lane, and he's just come out ahead of Andy Hopley. Andy's really cut that gap down.
Yeah, he has. 3 seconds, 3.3 seconds difference between their pit stops. And look at that. The two Altitude Esports glued together as well now. Arthur Thurtle ahead of Adam Watson. Arthur's pit stop 7 seconds shorter than Adam's. So, well, this strategy seems to have worked for him so far because it's putting him in a really good position track-wise, but he's going to have to pit earlier. So let's see what he can do to sort of unsettle the drivers around him. A bit further back, Simon Povey is right behind Taylor Adams. We've got Mark Johnson and Michael Seal right together as well. Tom Weston is 7 seconds off this. We've got a battle between Philip Hopley, Kim Such and Matthias Pentele, who is recovering but now going into the pit lane for his stop. But we'll keep an eye on this though, Ed. The two BMW giants at the front of the field. Two of the guys that are really good at making this car work. Well, they're definitely going to make it work now.
Yeah, they've got to make it work, and they're certainly not going to be working together, are they? They're going to be trying their best as Andy Hopley just taps the rear end of the car in towards the S's there. I love seeing the cars go through Skyline and the S's. Skyline, of course, named because that's pretty much all you can see before you go down the hill. It's just the Skyline. And also named after the wonderful R32 Skyline that absolutely dominated the Asian and Australian touring car scene. It was an absolute monster, and that was hence why it was called Godzilla.
Yes.
And it was here at this Bathurst circuit where it was just completely peerless. Nothing could get close to it.
I think it was ex-Rick Wood, wasn't it, the Skylines? There's a great ex-Rick Wood one. Oh, goodness me, boys. Flipping heck. I leant back in my seat then. But yeah, there's an ex-Rick Wood Skyline R32 GTR in that very spec that circulates around the UK actually and races in some championships here, and it is just, I mean, Godzilla doesn't describe how just bonkers and balmy that car is.
Is that the one that I think Jake Hill takes out around Goodwood and just wrings the neck out of?
It's barely ever got 4 wheels on the ground. It's usually just 3 wheels. It's epic, that thing. Massive, massive epitome of my car interests is that car. Anyway, Simon Povey's car interests won't include the Aston Martin Vantage by the end of this race. He's fed up of staring at the back of him. He's got Taylor Adams in front of him now. He'll be happy with that, though, considering the fact that he's had to use the strategy to make this work. But to be fair, it's all been down to pace with Simon because his pit stop was only a second less than Taylor, and he was much further back from him than that before. So we'll see whether Simon can continue this. Look at that. Taylor knows he might save fuel here and use this. He doesn't want to fight that too hard with Simon. Povey goes through into 6th place. He'll know that Nils Kors leads this race, and he'll want to, well, catch up because of the points. Rob Sutherland's mentioned that it's in the Classic Sports Car Championship as well. It absolutely is, or Classic Sports Car Club, I should say. There is an RX-7 that races with it, yes. I commentated at Snetterton a while ago, and that thing was flying past down the start-finish straight. The noise that old RX-7 makes is disgustingly pretty. And, yeah, I would love to see them again. I've not had any action from CSCC this year, to be fair. So it's something I've wanted to sort of go and see, but it's never been local enough when I've had a weekend off. Anyway, enough about me. Let's focus on these boys because, well, they're glued together right now, and I think maybe Andy Hopley will want to just sit in the slipstream a little bit of our race leader because there's no need for him to slow both of them down and go for big moves here, is there, Ed? He may as well just use this stint to save a bit of fuel and try and do the same again.
Yeah, I mean, he looked to be comfortable enough in 2nd place, didn't he? And the race was wearing on him, gearing up towards that first pit stop, and we know that his next stop will likely be longer than Nils Kors, so he will inevitably drop back from this fight. So it just seems to make sense for him now to, if not win the race, definitely secure 2nd place by just sitting in behind Nils Kors and using the pace of Nils just to drag him along, get those lap times, and also save a bit of fuel in the process. Because when we get to the end of the season, a result like this, a 2nd place for Andy, would be a huge step forward for his championship.
Yeah, it really would be. I'm certainly excited to see what this does to the points. But the two BMWs out front, then the Altitude Esports cars. Watson is now 1.1 seconds ahead of Thurtle, so maybe that strategy is not down to Thurtle being in front of his teammate. Maybe he was hoping he'd sit behind him, but James Holman's here to spoil the party for him, as he was at Okayama as well. Those Astons sound so brutal, making their way up the hill. Gary Tall in the YouTube chat as well, saying sorry to Mark Johnson. He had a hardware issue with the wheel. So sorry to see it, Gary. But hope you're all right, buddy. And hope that you at least enjoy the rest of the race from these guys. And that they put on a good show for us all, because I'm sure they certainly will do. You can hear cars scraping and dragging against the wall everywhere we look, can't you, Ed? Because these guys are right on the limit now, lap after lap.
Yeah, they really are. They're not giving any quarters. Lovely shot there. You can see the Scuderia Chicken House all over the back of Pete Thickett's car from this angle. You can also see something else that's getting all over the back of him, and that's that BMW that's chasing him down. Guy Edwards putting the pressure on for that 9th place. He's been sort of waiting in behind the rear wing. So 3 car. Is it technically a chicken wing? It's part of the Scuderia Chicken House car.
Absolutely is. Well, he's certainly winging it at the moment. Pete Thickett's been absolutely flying, to be fair. He's took a bit of time to get back on his feet in the championship, but I tell you, he's been right up there since, and he's been making these very shiny, very garish cars look good. It's almost become a weekly thing now where everybody waits to see what his livery is going to be for the next round, and I absolutely love it. You know, it's not just, oh, well, what will the livery look like? There's probably no black vinyl on the right-hand side of it anymore, but to be fair, a lot of people don't like it when there's a massive change between car liveries week after week. I don't think it's that bad when it's just the one of them. And Pete Thickett certainly makes it very entertaining. But look at the run that Guy Edwards gets. That's what you were talking about before, wasn't it, Ed? It's so important to get a good run out of Forest Elbow, and that is why, because it just amplifies and amplifies all the way down the straight, side by side into the chase. And you know what? He scared Guy Edwards away from it. Either that or Guy just saw sense and thought, no.
Guy's a pretty sensible lad. I think he saw
guy.
What was happening, yeah, and thought, you know what, let's back out of this one and just calm it down for now. It's no sense going all the way around the outside and worrying about what you'll be seeing, maybe a potential incident going down at this stage of the race. There's plenty more opportunities to make that place later on. Potentially actually coming out of Hell Corner, as we're seeing now. Our Thurtle under pressure for a moment there by James Holman, who's really starting to, I think, come into his own at this stage of the race. It takes a little while, doesn't it, James, to sort of get going into these races. The first few laps never seem to be his best work, but then as the race gets on and on and on, he just seems to evolve and get pace back within him. Maybe it's down to a lack of practice in before the race, in terms of obviously using the race just to get up to speed a bit more and more, because we do see him arrive late on, don't we, just before qualifying. Or it might just be the way he likes to approach the race, take it easy and then have that latent grip in the tyres to push later on.
Yeah, it's almost like he has to sort of assess his strategy in the first stint, and then once he's had a pit stop, he just comes alive, because he knows exactly what he's going to do, when he's going to pit next, how much fuel he's going to have, and for how long. And yeah, he just really switches it on all of a sudden. So Holman, very exciting to watch. It's great as well to see that he can turn on the strategy like that, because in Legends you never really do any sort of strategy. You've just got to gun it absolutely everywhere and push everybody out of the way. Not literally, but they have bumper bars on them to push each other down the start-finish straights, and when you're slipstreaming, just like this, as he now makes his way up to the back of Arthur Thurtle. Arthur has been really, to be fair, resisting this pressure very well. Arthur, we know, is absolutely rapid, great driver for Altitude Esports as part of their star-studded lineup, but James Holman is throwing the kitchen sink at him here, and Arthur is just showing complete defiance here, closes the door on him through the chase. He's really sending a message there, isn't he?
Yeah, I thought for a moment we were going to see it coming together, but
I did.
We know that James is so good on the brakes to get it stopped. Just throwing little moves up the inside. I'm not sure if he was fully committing to it, but potentially just trying to throw Arthur off his game, off his line and into a mistake, but there was none coming from Arthur at that moment in time, was there? He was very strong and resilient in his defence.
Look at this behind him as well.
Though, I was just saying, while they were battling, look who's arriving on the scene. Simon Povey, after having a pretty poor showing in qualifying, certainly by his standards, he's making up for it in the race now, up into 6th place. And I think focusing on what he's going to do when he catches up on these two cars ahead, those two Aston Martins that are locked together. A nice little battle, but I think Simon's going to be hoping to just bide his time a little bit. He's on a slightly different strategy, I think, to these two as well.
Well, he's just on a purple sector 1 on that last lap. Nils Kaur just 2 laps ago did the fastest lap of the race at 2:13.4. Simon's only 0.4 of a second off that last time round, actually, as well. So purple sector 1 for him. He is now pushing. Now he knows that he can get within striking distance of these two Astons. We're going to see Simon at his best now when he really guns for it. Maybe a little bit wide through there, actually, as he tries to get the most out of this McLaren, flying down through skyline one way then the other. That's the thing with this car, it's so pointy, it's so agile, but the problem with it is the engine always wants to overtake the front axle, doesn't it? So it tries to spin itself. All the while, Taylor Adams is actually following him and matching him for pace. Dominic Brennan's just on a purple sector 2 as well, so these guys just outside the top 5, they have suddenly realised that there's a big opportunity ahead of them here, and they are pushing like mad.
Yeah, and I think the track is certainly evolving more and more. We can see sort of the nice black sheen of the rubber being laid down all the way through the mountain, which is helping the drivers to push a bit harder, take more speed through the apexes, and more importantly, carry the speed out of those corners down these long straights, which I think is helping the lap times just fall a little bit more, even though the tyres are starting to wear a little bit as well. It's sort of keeping it in equilibrium.
Yeah, it's all going to come together, I think, before the end. As Arthur Turtle now pits again. He's done his bit, though, I think, there, because he's held James Holman up a little bit with that battle. I think that might have been part of the bigger picture for these Altitude Esports guys to work together. We'll have to see. Taylor Adams goes on through in the Regenta sim racing machine, the Magenta Regenta. Surprised we've not picked up on that one already yet. Gorgeous liveried race car. Not quite the same as the epic-looking Cadillac that they ran at the Court au Mont event, because that darker purple with the gold highlights was so tasty, and it was very different to the Aston Martin that we see here. Nils Kaur, excuse me cameraman, still leads the race. He's actually opened up a gap now of 1.7 seconds over Andy Hopley. Andy's not been completely able to stay with him, and importantly as well for the race, Andy is now out of slipstreaming range, so the satellite racing machine has a healthy advantage that was not, or is no longer giving any sort of advantage to his competitors, and that's what he'll be most happy about there, I think. What do you reckon?
He will be, and he'll also be happy that Adam Watson has just put his personal best of the race in as well. That lap time of 1 minute 13.62, 0.2 of a second faster than Andy Hopley. So Andy might need to start looking more in his rearview mirrors rather than worrying about Nils Kaur out in front.
Oh, unless he does that. Like a landmine went off in the barrier then. Big hit for Adam Watson. Tell you what though, it's a real advert for how sturdy that Aston Martin is, because Adam has bounced it and scraped it off just about every wall, because he's really pushing. It's very exciting to watch, but for the longevity of that Aston Martin's life, it's certainly not. But he has been wrangling this thing from the get-go of this race, and it's been certainly exciting. Another driver that's been really throwing his Aston Martin around is Pete Thickett. He's got Guy Edwards still chasing him down in this very unique battle, this BMW against the Aston Martin. Just inside the top 10, these two. Mike Murphy's behind them, but 13 seconds back. He's doing a solid job as well, with Ben Chalcraft, his teammate, next up behind.
The amount of time they've spent stationary in the pit box, it's sort of all over the place. Drivers are trying and hope that that sees them enough stead that when they make their longer pit stop, they don't drop back as far. It's just drivers being a little bit coy with one another, and I think we'll really start to see the race, I think, explode into action, as it often does, in those last sort of 10 minutes when all of that activity suddenly bursts into life in the pit lane once more.
Yeah, that's the thing. These races, they go through stages, don't they, where they suddenly settle down for a little bit, they just chill out, and then all of a sudden it explodes into life, like you say, and we suddenly have strategy changes and everything becomes apparent, and we know then what everyone's on. So
he's really pushing now, isn't he?
He really is. He's flying 2:13.5 last time round. 10th of a second quicker than our race leader, and 0.6 of a second quicker than Andy Hopley. I just really hope, for Adam's sake, this massive push towards the end of the race, and a lot of these bits of contact, is just down to netcode, because sometimes iRacing does like to exaggerate maybe slight contact with the wall for those that are spectating, but Adam is running it very fine at the moment, and it's only moments away from just being in the wall, isn't it, around Bathurst? That's the scary bit. You've got to dance on that line but not overstep it, and Adam's doing a great job of dancing along the line at the moment beautifully.
Yeah, he's had a couple of times where that line was crossed, though, was it? Especially at Forest Elbow, which saw him drop back behind Andrew Hopley initially in those early moments of the race before the first round of pit stops. And he's certainly one of the drivers, and there have been many. He's not the only one that has been knocking seven shades of rubbish out of his car here tonight. He's certainly going to need plenty of TLC after being just wrangled around the mountain. But you can see from this onboard shot that BMW out ahead is certainly becoming more and more prominent. Yeah, he's closing it down. That last lap was just around about a 10th gain, so a little bit more of a marginal gain this time around, but a gain nevertheless.
Nils Kor was about a 100th of a second quicker than him. Dominic Brennan's done his fastest lap of the race on the previous lap, sorry. He's just literally ticked over the line there, and he was actually about a second off. Half a second off his fastest time then, but he was still 2/10 quicker than Taylor Adams, who was slower than Simon Povey, who is actually the fastest of all of these guys on the circuit right now. And look at that, he's caught James Holman hand over fist right now. He's within a second as well of James Holman's Aston Martin in front of him. That'll be important for Simon. He uses James as a very good yardstick, because we all know how quick Mr. Holman is. He's 6th in the championship at the moment, is James. He did miss a round of the season, but he is 16 points off the top spot, and it is all very, very close. You get, in these races, 20 points for a win. Now, anyone in the top 6 of the championship could currently take the championship lead based on that, if any of them have a DNF or a non-score. Adam Watson is only 24 points off the top spot, to be fair.
Ooh,
it's very
Simon
close.
Had a bit of a moment there.
He did,
Sorry,
I could hear the tyres scraping, yeah.
A little correction as well that was needed on the apex. When you're going at that speed and the walls are that close, this is certainly worrying, and you can understand why some drivers are saying that the McLaren is not the car to be in around on this circuit, because it, like you say, is very twitchy. And you mentioned, didn't you, the rear end likes to sometimes overtake the front. You see it a lot in the you see it a lot in the Porsche as well. It's a shame that we haven't seen too much of the Porsches this race. It's just they don't really seem to be out in any intense battles. They're all sort of in their own little bubbles.
Yeah, they absolutely are. I was going to try and go back and have a look at that for just a moment. Toby Johns has just been off the road for a minute. We've not seen much of Toby tonight, but he's been running well a bit further down the order, but he's still been running cleanly. Good save that, because it's very easy for the car to over-rotate there. Yeah, I thought the cardboard was going to catch fire against the wall there. Simon was so close to it. Andy Hopley in again, a little bit earlier than Nils Kor will be. And to be fair, he's going to have a longer pit stop as well than Nils, who does the fastest lap of the race, a 2 minutes 13.4. So does that tell you that he's coming in on the next lap there, Ed? Because James Holman and Simon Povey have just done their personal best as well. I think now the fuel's burned off, they know they don't need to save an entire lap anymore. They're just going to slam the throttle to the floor and get on with it. We've had purple sectors from Andy Hopley and the likes as well.
Yeah, he's just pushing it as hard as he can in this stage of the race. It's just focusing now about the stopwatch and nothing else. As you see coming through Quarry Bend really hard on the inside as Mike Murphy. Not sure if you get penalised for crossing over those
just
cones.
Thinking that, yeah. I would have thought you did, because we've seen a lot of people make a very conscious effort to not drive over those, but then again, they've already had a pit stop, these guys, so maybe they've done that the previous time round and got away with it. We'll have to wait and see how long their stops are. Hopefully, no issue for them. James Holman is going to see that cardboard McLaren getting bigger and bigger in his rearview mirror right now. And Simon Povey is within 6.5 tenths of a second as they go over the top of the mountain. Even if he can just save a little bit of fuel down the Conrod for this one time, even if they're both going to come into the pits this lap, that could make quite a bit of difference for Simon, because this is the final stop, isn't it? And it's just that extra half a second or second or so less fuel, which could jump him ahead of James.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of talk, isn't there, about rain coming to iRacing, and I think James will want it sooner rather than later. Hopefully, put away that cardboard car that's chased him down. Simon Povey, though.
Oh, God.
He might be raining on his own parade if he has more moments like that, getting close to the wall. Really pushing hard, but that's the reason why he's one of the fastest cars out on circuit, because he is pushing incredibly hard, trying to get every last drop of performance out of this McLaren as we await Nils Kor and his trip potentially into the pits or past the pits.
I think he's going to go again. Yeah. Wow.
Might go up until around about 8 minutes or so to go in the race. I think they came in around about the 33-minute mark, because that would just about match up.
Yeah. And look
Coming
at this.
On lap 12, so it could be around about lap 23, 24.
Oh, Simon pushing there out the final corner. He's now within half a second of James Holman in front of him. Simon's gained 5 places in this race so far. The 2 biggest movers in the race, though, to give them credit where credit's due, are actually Tom Weston and the car behind him by 7 seconds, Heinz Mayer. Those 2 have both gained 6 positions in this race so far, both making it into the championship points as well. You get points all the way down to 15th position in this championship. 20 points for a win, then 18, 16, and then 15 all the way down. Sorry, no, 20, 18, 16, 14, 12, and then it's 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So you only get 2 points.
Chasing down points, Michael Seal, he's up in 17th place, and after the torrid start to his race, he isn't miles away from Ben Shelcroft, so there's still a good chance for some points on the board for Michael if he can stick with it, and some cars ahead of him potentially have a few issues or moments. It's not a foregone conclusion for Michael this race that it's going to be all for naught.
I want to know who that man is on the rear bumper of that car. Just noticed there's a bloke on the back of this car. I think it might be one of the
AI race engineers,
yes.
I think.
Yeah, it looks like it actually. It looks a bit of a cartoony image. We won't see it here though, as he goes around the final corner. It's not the what's it called? It's not the greatest abbreviation to having massive letters down the side of your car, is it? To be fair though, for Michael Seal and for Tom Weston, but still brings a smile to your face, I imagine. As we have now 10.5 minutes of this race left to go. Tim Such is in the pit lane for Oris Racing Green. And to be fair, it's all green and clean where Simon Povey is standing, but James Holman won't be thinking so. He'll hoping he'll just go away at some point soon. I'm intrigued to see whether these 2 actually come in on the same lap here, Ed, or whether they both continue on. Or one does and one doesn't, sorry.
Yeah, it might be one of those cases of do whatever he doesn't do. And it's going to be both of them actually copying one another. It looked like someone was going to carry on. Yeah. And then saw James Holman was committing to the pits, so then followed him through.
2 of them absolutely glued to each other on the way in. Look how close they are. Simon actually gained a few car lengths as well, coming into the pits. Dominic Brennan has come in as well.
Similar times actually in the pits last time, so we'll expect them to have the same sort of pit time this time around.
Taylor Adams has carried on, so too has Nils Core and Adam Watson. Look at these pairs absolutely mimicking each other as they head into the pit lane. A bit of a slow roll to the box there by James Holman. Sometimes you do see drivers go right up to the limit and slam on the brakes at the last opportunity, but they take that risk to overshoot it. 10.8 seconds for Holman, 12.8 seconds for Povey. So Holman's actually going to gain a good bunch of time back there. 1.9 seconds is the gap between the 2 of them. 1.8 now as they make their way out of the pits. Dominic Brennan has come out as well. Arthur Thurtle has got ahead of him. So Arthur has gained a bit of time there, but then again, he was ahead of those guys before the pit stop started, wasn't he? So again, unfortunately for Arthur Thurtle, by the look of it at the moment, the strategy hasn't worked because he's got 6 seconds almost to Simon Povey ahead.
Not good at all, is it, for Arthur Thurtle? Trying to make it work with the earlier pit stop, but then, of course, that last one is going to take a lot more time, and that's, I think, sadly been his undoing. Out in front, though, there's been nothing that can seemingly stop Nils Core. Out in front, we're expecting to see him into the pits, presumably at the end of this lap. Could be the next as well. We said came in last time around on lap 12. So did obviously Adam Watson. I think pretty much everyone else that is yet to pit came in on that 12th lap.
Yeah, it's only the top 5 now basically that haven't had any stops. Those are the haven't had their second stop. Those that are of any threat. There won't be anybody doing a 1-stop here today, that's for sure. This is not a circuit that allows that sort of behaviour, to be honest with you. Adam Watson round the final couple of corners, he has got enough fuel to carry on again, and so too has Nils Core, so they will do an extra lap. What about Taylor Adams? He's next up. I think he's carrying on. Yes, he is. He's making it work as well again tonight. Then we've got this battle, which is still going on, by the way. Pete Thickett and Guy Edwards. I'll be looking at venues after tonight. Absolutely stuck to each other after this one. Guy's going to want a KFC after this race, I can tell you that for free. He's been staring at that chicken car for so long, and look, because he's been sat there, he's able to get another lap out of this, so he saved a bit of fuel. Andy Hopley's behind him as well in the other BMW for H Motorsport, so he's also threatening at the moment, but where's he going to be in compared to the other guys? Because look, James Holman's, well, 4 seconds back. There's Simon Povey just over a second behind him. Simon's done a purple sector 3 on that last lap as well, so he's really on it now. This is, again, Simon unleashing that McLaren. But it's all going to be a question of how far ahead of Hopley Niels Kor is. But I think with the difference in laps since they pitted, Niels is going to have a much shorter pit stop.
Yeah, you would imagine so, wouldn't you? Much, much shorter. Looking as well, potentially, at Adam Watson, where he's going to be after the pit stops as well. Now, Andrew Hopley was stationary for about 12 seconds. So that's something we have to bear in mind when Adam Watson comes through to make his next and final stop. Look at the car there on 3 wheels coming down through the S's and through the dipper. Presumably for the last time on this stint, as he's pushing hard all the way through. Look at how much he opens out Forrest's elbow to try and get on the power as early as he can. Close to the wall on the exit, really pushing hard as Adam Watson.
That was like...
You can tell that he's about to go into the pits now, surely.
I was expecting him to press triangle there and start grinding along it like Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, and that he was that close to the flipping wall. Jesus, Adam. Well, Mark Fletcher's going to get a big invoice for a new lot of silver vinyl down the side of his cars. We need to look, though, at Niels Kor. 7.5 seconds clear of Adam Watson, and he is definitely coming into the pits. He hugs the left-hand side of the circuit, and in comes the BMW and the race leader. It's been supreme at the front so far. Adam Watson's been very, very good in this race as well. You know, he's been his usual exciting self, very close to the walls, right on the edge, right on the limit. And even on his entry to the pit lane, he still maintains that mantra and makes his way in. Taylor Adams next up. Guy Edwards, I imagine, will come in as well. Now, is Andy Hopley going to get held up at all here? Is this going to affect his race in the long run? Guy Edwards makes his way into the pits. Andy Hopley's going through. Andy was stationary for 12.9 seconds. Looking at Niels Kor, he is stationary for 10.3. So it's not as much of a difference as I would have thought, but it's enough to guarantee that Niels Kor has the race lead here. Andy Hopley has gone past Adam Watson, so he's gone through. Where is Adam going to come out here?
Adam Watson looked like he was very slow coming into the pits. I don't know if he's had a problem.
He has.
He didn't have enough fuel. I don't think he had enough fuel and then had to tow that last little bit.
Oh, no. No.
You need to have a look because he was very slow in the pit lane.
Yeah, it says Adam Watson jumped to the pits in our software as well.
Did he miss his pit box? He might have even gone past it.
Let's have a look here.
Because he's dropped an entire lap now. He's down in 21st, so he must have gone past it.
Is that running out of fuel?
Sounds like it. The speed's coming down and down and down.
Oh, it's not going to make it. No, Adam. No. Or is it going to make it? I would have thought it would. Or is it because it's out of fuel you have to tow it back?
No,
he's like one garage short. That is painful for Adam Watson.
It puts him in garage 2, doesn't it?
Yeah, that is so painful. Although now he's showing his 10th place, so I think there was some miscalculation. Yeah.
Okay, so it wasn't him being put back a lap, so he didn't miss the pit box. It was just a case of running out of fuel. I saw him coming through and very slow, and it was as Andy Hopley was passing it, I thought, he still hasn't stopped in his pit box. What was going on? And it was just a case of running it that fine on the fuel that he ran out coming into his pit box.
This happened in the meantime. Simon Povey went down the inside of James Holman into the final corner. He remains ahead of James Holman at the moment, but only by 0.6 of a second. There they are, coming down into the final couple of corners now. Niels Kor has a 6-second lead at the front. Andy Hopley, what a race he's having as well. Second place for him at the moment. He's 4.7 seconds clear of Povey and Holman as well. And with those two battling, that's going to remain very easy for him to maintain so long as he just survives. Flipping heck, Andy. Don't do that to me, please. These two are still doing their vows. Guy Edwards and Pete Thickett, but it's the other way around now, and Guy, probably saving that extra little bit of fuel, you know, has had a shorter stop. 8 seconds, actually, over the 9.5 of Pete Thickett, and like I say, they're less than a second apart, so that shows you the difference it can make, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's really close from these two, just battling away. Oh, Pete Thickett makes a little mistake out into the grass. Just pushing so hard coming out that final corner. It's easily done, of course. when you're focusing on the car ahead, you maybe just have a little mistake, and then that compromises your exit. Now though, there's a nice slipstream all the way up Mountain Straight in towards Quarry Corner to sort of recover that lost pace, that lost gap. Simon Povey looks like he's trying to break away and might be succeeding, you know, breaking away from James Holman.
Yeah, the outright pace of Povey, as we've seen over multiple seasons, is just amazing. Really is. I'm very grateful to have him running in the Sponsex CDM Esports colours, whether it be the unwrapped livery that we have here, or the usual white and blue and red colours, or even the Sponsex Scourers colours, as he was in for Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge Season 3. Simon is so fast, but the BMWs have been really good here tonight. They have certainly been the car to beat. Niels Core and Andy Hopley have been right up there. Guy Edwards has been flying as always in the RD SimSport 2 car. It's a joy to see it. It's lovely to see the Aston Martin on such pace as well, you know. It really has been a pleasure. Arthur Thurtle, he's running in 6th place at the moment though, so it's not bad championship points at all, but it's not the race he would have had in mind, is it, unfortunately, Ed? He's got amazing pace. He certainly showed it at Fuji at the start of the season, but the strategies just haven't worked out for him, have they, so far?
No, not particularly, but also it wasn't really a circuit that he looked too comfortable at. His qualifying performance was certainly a struggle, to say the least, not really setting any lap times until the very end, and even then that was only good enough for 8th position, not where we've been expecting Arthur Raytheon's performance earlier on this season whatsoever. And again, another mistake through it there for Arthur, just a little bit too, I think, overzealous. But meanwhile, out in front, the white flag has been waved for this man. Just one more lap to go.
Just did the fastest lap of the race.
The fastest lap time in anticipation of the close of this wonderful race at Bathurst, and one that he has just completely dominated. I think it's fair to say, leading at every single lap.
Oh, I don't
fastest
know.
lap as well, pole position. Is this going to be a grand slam for Niels Core?
Well, no, because Adam Watson led the first few laps of the race.
He didn't lead every lap.
No.
You're right.
Not quite a grand slam, but it's vintage Niels Core, isn't it? It's really what we've seen from him a couple of times, where he's just about failed to get the win because somebody's outdone him with strategy, but it's just been a perfect night for him in this BMW, and clearly the changeover to satellite racing has done him some good. And it was actually his first league race for satellite racing at Fuji at the start of the season in his new colours for his new team, and he took the victory there. It was such a feel-good story because everyone in the paddock loves Nils. He's great. Yeah. Really great bloke. And the fact that
he's been a driver, wasn't he, that all throughout last season he was saying was overdue a win.
Yeah, well, that's it. You know, it was coming for a long time, but it's the fact that this big boat of a car, the BMW, which he just glances off the wall, it's been sort of underestimated until Christopher Smith showed us exactly what it can do. You know, a few drivers have gone for it and really made it work since then. Niels Core has been one of those absolute superstars to repeatedly show us just how good it is. Oh, Michael Seal's dreams of points have gone down the drain. He's just had a big mistake through the chase and lost a lot of time. I think he was just diving for the pits there. I think he's damaged the car. But into the chase once more at the end of lap 27 with just a couple of corners to go. It has been, well, I've already said it, vintage Niels Core here tonight at Bathurst. And he is going to come around the final corner to take victory in round 5 of the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Winter Tour. Satellite Racing and Niels Core win in dominant fashion. Epic victory that for the German driver with the fastest lap at the end, a 2:13.1. Brilliant stuff. And Andy Hopley, what a great second place that is, Ed. A real feel-good story there with Simon Povey completing the podium from 9th on the grid.
Wonderful to see Andy Hopley back up onto the podium. Trying not to be biased as he was my former teammate, but it's so great to see him back in the SRM fold and back up onto the podium, because it's been great to see him come back. And he's had a few tough races here and there, but that's going to be huge for his championship. So of course will that result for Simon Povey getting onto the podium after a terrible start to the evening with his qualifying performance. A really good recovery drive, up 6 places. In fact, looking at it, I think he is the biggest mover in the field, is Simon Povey, up 6.
I believe so. Let me just confirm that. Yes, he was. Biggest mover in the field and a podium finish to go with it for Simon Povey. There was a bit of a moment there for Pete Thickett, unfortunately, in his battle with Guy Edwards. I think he's just gone in one more time, hard as possible on the brakes, and he's gone way off. And as you said before, Ed, when you get into the ABS, it is a nightmare to get these cars stopped. Pete had to go for it. He wanted to give it that one final shot. It just didn't work out. But it absolutely worked out for this man tonight. Niels Kaur, so dominant at the front of the pack. Sure, he had to fight for it. Adam Watson was great. Adam will be actually, I imagine, a little bit sort of pleased with the top 10 considering the issue that he had. But Niels Kaur showed everybody how it's done in that BMW tonight, and, well, shows us exactly why he is deserving and why everybody said it's been a long time coming for him to get a win. He's had 2 brilliant victories so far this season. Hats off.
Really pleased for Niels Kaur. He's certainly looking like a refreshed and revitalised driver for this season. It's going to be exciting to see what he can do. I think he's going to try and line up for a jump over the mountain, he's going to try and go for the jump, but I don't think it works anymore with the reformed gravel slowing the speed, but he's going to give it a go.
I would have thought he'd just go for it anyway with the fact that he'd had a better run out of the Forest Elbow anyway. Let's see. Go on, Nils. Go on, please.
Give it a red hot go at the very least, isn't he?
Go on, lad.
Yep.
Go on, lad. No. No, the poor Beamer. No, Nils. Well, he tried.
He gave it a red hot go, bless him.
Oh, if that doesn't
wonderful.
epitomise the sort of feel-good factor of this community, you've got Nils who was as formal and as uniform as you like and absolutely on it throughout that race, and then you just get the bit of silly fun at the end where he smacks it into a barrier. It's just great fun. Niels Kaur, dominant win, as we've said. And Andy Hopley, what a great result for him there. Second place, really solid run from him, third on the grid. Simon Povey, just inside the top 10 in qualifying, manages to grab third place ahead of James Holman, who once again was completely solid. So too was Taylor Adams, more big points for his championship. Arthur Thurtle was next up in 6th place. He made that work in the end, but just not as well as he would have wanted, with Dominic Brennan in 7th place. I know Spotify is going to stop in a second because I'm continually talking. Guy Edwards was 8th ahead of Pete Thickett. Great battle between those two. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for your services to entertainment. Adam Watson finishes in 10th place with Mark Johnson in 11th. Mike Murphy is 12th with Ben Chalcraft 13th. Those two are quite under the radar tonight as well. Tom Weston recovers to 14th, and Heinz Mayer gets a point for his team Oris Racing Yellow. His teammate Ralph Mayer was behind him with Kim Such in 17th. Matthias Pentila was not... he was classified by the end. He actually got back out there and continued on. Hats off to Matthias. Philip Hopley was 19th and the last car on the lead lap. Michael Seal was 20th and Toby Johns was 21st. Gary Tall and Mike Horder did not complete the race. Well, I absolutely loved that, Ed. I was really excited for Bathurst and I thought that it was going to be a really cool race to watch and a hell of a lot of fun, but I think the drivers proved even more that it was going to be a good laugh for us here tonight.
It was brilliant, wasn't it? Excellent racing all up and down the field, and we had a real clinic put on by Niels Kaur out in front, and I think, Chaz, you've got him to have a quick word to.
Absolutely. Nils, it's like buses. They don't come along very often, but when they do, you get two at a time. Your second win this season, your second win in Sim Racing Magazine history. You must be over the moon with that one, because that did not look easy.
I'm very happy about this, even more than the win at Fuji, I believe, because the car was just incredible on this track. It's usually like the last track, Okayama, it's really tough to get it around the corners, but on a track like Bathurst, it's all about the confidence in the car that you can just push it up and down the hill, and once the tires warmed up, this car is just amazing up and down the mountain. You can just push it as hard as you want and you never really feel too scared.
Well, it's great to hear that the BMW has a good home ground. Now, in the first couple of laps, obviously, Adam Watson made his way by and took the lead of the race. Did that faze you at all? Were you sort of calm and controlled in the situation, or did you not expect him to be able to do that?
I honestly kind of did expect something like that. First of all, as I mentioned, on cold tires, the BMW was a bit sketchy here. So it took like 2 laps to actually get them warmed up. And the Aston is usually quite quick on the first lap already. And then I also kind of made the mistake to start in second gear, and the car second gear is kind of useless in this car.
Well, fair enough. It's those tiny details, isn't it? You get used to a car like this in time, and you find out the good bits and the bad bits. It seemed like a strong light. Sorry, I can't get my words out. It seemed like a strong night for the BMWs, though, because Andy went well. He got second place, and Guy went well in 8th. Are there any other circuits on the calendar where you expect the BMW to go well?
Actually, you're gonna have to help me out there because I don't actually know what's coming next.
Sandown and Phillip Island, but they're sprint race nights as well.
So Sandown, I don't really know much about it. I think it's quite short, so it's probably not the best.
There's a lot of long straights, though.
Well, that might be good then, because here the long straight really helped a lot as well. Because unlike the other cars, you don't actually have to shift into 6th gear in the BMW, so you get a bit of a boost at the end of the straight. And Phillip Island, I did drive this track in the Audi GTO some time ago, but that's quite a different car, so...
You can say that again. It's an amazing car indeed, though. I commend you for driving that, because I don't think I could ever drive it in a straight line, never mind around Phillip Island. Your championship's obviously going very well now, Nils. You've got a championship lead here. Are you going to change your approach in any way into these final couple of meetings, or are you just going to carry on doing what you're doing?
Well, I think what I'm doing is working out quite well so far, so I'm just going to keep going at it.
Well, we look forward to seeing it, mate. Is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out to before you go?
Yeah, I would just like to shout out Satellite Racing once again. They really, are a great crew, and just starting to learn them. But I also just did my first race with them last weekend, and I really enjoyed that.
Well, it's great to see you in such a fantastic outfit, Nils, and you're making that BMW sing. Very well done, mate. Enjoy the rest of your week, and we will see you at Sandown.
Thanks a lot. Have a nice evening.
You too, mate. Cheers. There we go. Very humble race winner there, Nils Court. And, well, he says what he's doing at the moment is working, Ed. You can say that again. He's absolutely smashing it, isn't he?
Yeah, I think it's more than working. It's an absolute dream for him, isn't it? Able to have a race of that quality. And speaking of quality, we've got a man here that I've been dying to speak to since he's come into this championship, back to the Sim Racing Magazine events family, and it's Andrew Hopley back onto the podium as well. How was that? Like a great fun drive for you.
Back at it, Ed. Yeah, back at it. Yeah. No, it's good to be here. I'm really enjoying it, and it's just a bit of fun, and it's I've been out of the sim racing for best part of 2 years, just dipping in and out, and yeah, it's good to come back and still have a bit of pace. I have struggled a little bit, I'll be honest, but yeah, tonight was good fun, and I had a bit of pace, and yeah, just really enjoyed it.
Yeah, tonight it was like you never left, was it? Back up onto the podium. You had a good scrap at moments, didn't you, with Nils Court, and I think later on in the race with I think it was Adam Watson you were having a good fight with. Just talk us through those battles.
Yeah, well, Adam, I think Adam took the lead, didn't he, for a while, and he was pushing, and I think Neil was just sort of sitting on his coattails, and he made a mistake, and that let Neil sort of take the inside, I think, going up onto the mountain, and yeah, I just managed to stay with Adam, and then decided to pit early because I think I was just about to get some draft, or to give draft to somebody behind. I thought I'll not do that and I'll pit early, and then I sort of stuck with that theme really. Again, on the second pit stop, I think Adam was catching me, and just as he was getting close, I thought I'll just dip in and get out of the way again. And aside from that, yeah, the battle with Niles at the end, it wasn't really a battle, to be honest with you. He was. I learnt a lot from him, to be fair. Just over driving the car. I was sort of took back out by how early he was braking, and I was like, fucking hell, sorry for swearing, but he was. I was like, yeah, he was braking early, and I was like, how is he doing that? And he's just driving away, and I guess he's just, he's not over driving the car. He's looking after the tyres, and it's looking after him. Where I was just, balls out, late as I could, on the throttle as hard as I could, slamming into walls, just trying to stay with him. So yeah, it wasn't really a battle. He's some talent, is that lad.
I mean, you talk about tonight being a learning experience, but how has the whole season been in terms of learning, getting back into sim racing for you? Because like you say, you've been out of the game for a couple of years, but tonight it really looked like you were back at home.
Well, I think you kind of just believe, don't you, when you get back in? Oh, this is just I know what I'm doing, and then you start getting bumper to bumper with people, and you're like, you're like, Jesus, I need to maybe just calm down a bit. But yeah, I think that's just the close racing. It's very, very sort of touring car-esque, isn't it? The GT4 Championship. So just having that fidelity to, stay with somebody on the bumper without, going too far, and also, you've got to know everything like the back of your hand, haven't you? Really. So that's really the struggle. Everything else, it seems all right. I just haven't put the practice in terms of lap times. I don't think so.
And obviously for the remainder of the season, Sandown and Phillip Island, 2 sprint races. Is that something you're going to be looking forward to and hoping for a repeat good result, maybe more podiums?
I've raced at Phillip Island once, and I've yet to race. I think I'm yet to buy Sandown, so we'll see, mate. I don't think I'm not expecting any podiums, put it that way.
Well, a few more top 10s certainly, buddy. They're certainly on the way for you after tonight's performance. That's certainly going to be the case. But thank you very much for getting back and having a chat to us. Before we let you go off, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out to, mate?
No, just yourselves, and obviously my dad. It's nice to sort of spend an evening with my dad racing, and we're both swearing down the microphone at the walls and everybody else. So it's good. It's a bit of father-son bonding on a Tuesday night, and it's great to watch the broadcast back. So thank you to you guys, and obviously all the guys in the series.
Well, thank you very much. I can always picture being in that Discord. We were there. I was there for a season with you, and I can certainly remember the choice words that were being used when we were racing. So thank you very much, buddy.
All right. Cheers, guys. Thank you.
Cheers, Andy. Well, it's fantastic to have him back in the paddock there, Ed. I do apologise for the language, everybody, but at the end of the day, if I'm completely honest with you, I wouldn't have noticed had he have not said sorry for swearing. It was very under the radar, that. But yeah, great to have him back in the paddock, and he's clearly enjoying himself, and that's what it's all about, isn't it, Ed?
Yeah. You can tell that he was very relaxed and at ease after the race there, and that's a good sign for a driver that they're getting their confidence back and they're more comfortable in the car. Obviously, confident and comfortable enough to let something slip a bit, but of course we'll forgive him for it because he put on a brilliant show for us, as did, of course, this man that I think you're just about to have a word with, Chaz.
Absolutely. Adam, not quite the result you'd have been after there. It's been a bit of a tough season for that, but before that, you were absolutely on a mission there, mate. Talk us through your evening.
The start of the race was good. Neil's he's got that thing hooked up tonight. The thing in qualifying, he did the lap and we were like, nope, we're not getting anywhere near him. and then in the race, I was like, me and Arthur said this. We don't know what the people are gonna do. So last week, Akiyama, Povey, and Niels both fuel saved. Literally just let me and Arthur go. Is this going to happen again? And I got the run out of the last corner, got around the outside of him, and he was fine. Had a massive oversteer moment in turn 2. I was like, oh, and just nearly crashed. But yeah, then the tyres just had no grip. All of a sudden I had nothing when I was following, and I couldn't really do much. So a few moments hitting walls, scraping, Tony Hawking a lot. Didn't help.
I was going to say it was certainly a very Adam Watson race. You were right on the edge for a lot of it, which was very exciting to watch for us. But we were wondering if any of the little hits against the wall or any of the scrapes caused any damage to the car. But it seems like that Aston Martin's quite a tank, doesn't it?
They weren't doing any damage, and everything was all under control most of the time. It was just I was pushing, especially after the first pit stop. I was pushing because I could see I was catching Hopley and I could see I was sort of catching Niels, but until I was pushing a bit, I was quicker than the BMW down the hill, but the BMW was far too quick tonight. Either in a straight line or going up the hill, the thing was mega. So, but there's nothing it's Niels or Andrew. They were both really quick tonight.
Yeah, there was certainly a BMW circuit this evening. It was interesting to see that, though, but it's good to see you guys with the Aston Martin right up there at the top of the order as well, because it's been a car that, as we've been saying, was sort of slated for the last sort of season or so, because it's not really been the most potent of machines, but, you're making it work for this season. We've got Sandown next up, which is a big straight line speed circuit. Are you feeling confident about that there, though? Because the twisty bits, I reckon, would suit the Aston.
Yeah, so before we came into the season, me and Arthur spoke, and we heard rumours that there was some people complaining about the Aston, So it was like, oh, we'll go in it. It'll be a laugh. See what happens. And obviously then Arthur put it on pole at Fuji, and we've had good pace since. So it was good. Sandown, I'm not too sure about, because it's all about big curbs. It's all about trying and carry corner speed as well as the straights. So I think it could be another BMW track, but we'll see. We'll do what we could do in the good old Aston.
Well, it's been a pleasure watching you do it so far, Adam. Is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to before we let you go tonight?
Just all the sponsors for LGD Sports, Mark Fletcher for paying all the repair bills, Arthur for being a good teammate, and yeah, just you guys for putting on a good stream.
Thank you very much, Adam. Pleasure as always, mate. Best of luck for the next one, and we look forward to seeing you there.
Thank you, guys.
Cheers. Well, Adam Watson's having a bit of a tough season so far, Ed, but he's still in positive spirits, and he always comes and has a chat to us, which is great to see, isn't it? He's a good sport.
Yeah, definitely. It's good to obviously get those windows into the races and drivers that like to talk to us, good and bad, after their races, because it's obviously not nice for them, but nice for us to get that window into sort of the way they're thinking and their thought process after a bad result and then going forward into the next one.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it's certainly been a very solid night for a lot of drivers here in the championship, but Nils Kort extends his championship lead in the best way possible. It was definitely a BMW-dominated track tonight, and the satellite racing driver made the most of it. That's all from round 5 of the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Winter Tour. Thanks again to our epic sponsors, which are on board: Oris Digital, Crockery Direct, and Derbyshire Holiday Homes. Thanks also to all the viewers, all the drivers, everybody for putting on a good show, and my wonderful co-commentator, Ed May. This has been Chaz Draycott Media for the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Winter Tour. We'll see you in a week's time, everybody, where we head into the first of 2 sprint race rounds at Sandown. Have a good one.
Four French drivers at the French Grand Prix trying to win this on the final lap. The 3 wide again, Guillaume down the inside. Guillaume moves across, they're both in front of Milan and Pouget.
Before you know it, we find ourselves here in the very final.
And then they see truck racing and they think, this is crazy, you know, these are 5-ton machines, 1200 horsepower brake. Oh, look at that switchback. Oh, he's been mugged and a first to show off. Ben Gregory now, I love it. 10.5 minutes gone. Senna Lanson tries to go for the race lead.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.